Hello, everybody, and welcome to Hanging Out with Howie. My very special guest and good friend, Lou Paris, is with me tonight. How are
Hello.
you, Lou?
Doing well, doing well. How are you and Howie?
Oh, doing well. Oh my goodness. I've been watching your feed and you've had sewer problems and oh my goodness.
Never ends.
It never ends. Wow. So, hey, how about we do something that we love to do here? And we'll go back a little bit in time. You were a DJ in the 80s for a while and you took a little bit of time off. Tell us a little bit about that.
Right. So I started DJing while I was still in high school. Actually, one of my friends, had his own rig and all that, real old school stuff. And, he asked me to start helping him out. So, of course, I had a passion for music anyway. So, I'd be a fool not to. And that just really parlayed from that point. I went to the college scene. I was on college radio, did, house parties and whatnot, throughout college. Ultimately, in radio, I actually started in Vermont on WJJR in radio and ended up in DC in radio to the biggest hip hop stations in DC, WKYS and WPGC. I did short spells there and also DJ'd at DC Live in the Ritz. At the time, probably like one of the top 5 clubs in the area, especially for things like hip hop and whatnot. And met my wife, or then my girlfriend, and my IT career was blowing up at that point. I was about 3 years into it at that point, and paid a whole lot more money back then, big time. And took a break. Actually, took a 13-year break, really. And
13. Oh my goodness. I was thinking it was 8 or so.
yeah, and I always, there would be the rare occasion, I still kept good friends with a couple DJs over the years, and they would throw me a gig here and there. I think I probably did like 5 gigs throughout that entire span just to fill in. I still have my music collection and all that, so I would, oblige and have a little bit of fun. Nothing super complicated, nothing definitely to the scale that I do now. And moved up to the Hudson Valley in 2012. And, the pains of money started making me think of what could I do that, I really enjoyed and, could make me some decent money as, running, my own business. And, DJing was literally the first thing that popped in my head. Weddings, of course, was, the big money maker for the most part. And started pursuing that, and the story is still going, at least with that. So, been running Paris Creative now, so almost 9 years, close to 9 years. And, been having a blast.
Well, so you've kept your pulse on the music even during those 13 years.
All the time. I've been an avid music, since I was a kid. First few albums.
I noticed you have a huge collection of records. It's like, oh my gosh.
And a lot of those are new actually purchases. I actually had my original, almost my entire collection stolen when I was still in Maryland. It was in storage and probably somewhere north of 10,000 copies. Wow. And I would normally, I'd have like my 4 or 5 normal pull crates to go to gigs with. And then, I just picked up stuff over the years. All that had gotten stolen. And the collector's bug bit me again. I've always, it's an inferior medium. I mean, there's, for the people who are like, digital versus vinyl versus CD and all that, it is an inferior medium, but that's what I grew up on. I grew up on, and, buying, Prince 1999 and just shuffling through the liner notes and, the whole texture. I mean, there was so much creativity and all that just really always caught my passion about that. And that never waned.
Wow, there is just so much here. John, we're not going to make it in 20 minutes here. I can tell you that right now. Now, you are into just about everything, and you do it at a very high level. One of the things that I admire about you is you're one of the handful of people that I can actually talk facts and science with, and math.
It's always nice.
Those are indisputable. They're indisputable, and it's such a pleasure to talk to you. I remember the first time I met you at one of the conventions, and I was like, a reasonable person that deals in facts and science. Oh, and we had a good time and a good laugh over that.
It's
But
definitely
you've
nice.
actually applied that though to your business.
I mean, and I have my luck of going through like my IT career. I worked for a lot of startups. I
Hmm.
worked in small companies, large companies. From as large as the FBI and Department of Justice to the little mom and pops. And I
Hmm.
definitely ran through my failed companies, and I saw what they did and that they didn't do. And I just applied that once I ultimately did my business. If I was going to do this, when my first commitment to it was, is the business sustainable? And do I have the wherewithal to run it like a business?
Hmm.
Because and that's not to knock the hobbyists or anything, but I wanted to make sure I did it right, and I wanted to make
Hmm.
sure that I would ultimately maximize my value, maximize potential, know what my business is doing. I'm an analytical guy. I'm definitely a
Hmm.
geek when it comes to numbers and facts and whatnot. And it's like,
Yes.
why did Wedding Wire not do good one year and absolutely terrible the next? I have this deep drive passion to know why. So
Yes. And it's worked out well for you because your SEO is through the roof. And
it's not bad. I will never claim them like some SEO god or something like that. But what almost 24 of my 25 years in IT were really focused on web. I was doing some of the first
hmm.
SEO before it was ever SEO. I actually was
Hmm.
very fortunate enough that one of the very first websites I did for the government was called 508 Standards, is for accessibility. So people for screen readers, braille readers, and whatnot. That actually became the foundation of SEO because I was using title tags and header tags and all the meta rich information that ultimately became SEO. So I was really fortunate that, again, past experience, I was able to adapt it into something that happened later on in my career.
That's another thing that we have in common besides our love of facts, science, and math is we both have FBI clearances. I just thought that was like,
I
oh,
don't have
this
it
is cool.
anymore.
But you still have a jacket. You
Yes.
know, like for myself, when I do these big country clubs during election years, I often get picked not because I'm the best DJ. It's because I can pass an FBI background check, and
There's
I provide the PA and some little background music, and they still sniff my stuff with the dog
oh
and
yeah,
the whole 9 yards. But I always get the gig,
yeah
and I'm sure
there's
it would be with you as well.
there's some advantage. Like I've definitely had a couple of the higher profile weddings. Where I'm in the Hudson Valley tends to
Hmm.
be a very rich area when it comes to tourists coming in for destination
Hmm.
weddings. Yeah, I had a prince from Qatar that got married in this area, and part of what made me valuable in that was my prior clearance, because it was
Yes.
signing NDAs and all these other things, and
Hmm.
having that definitely came to my advantage at that point.
Yeah. Did you ever get? I had this happen to me. My old shop teacher from high school gave me a call and said, "Howie, are you in trouble?" I said, "No, why? The FBI just called me and was asking about you."
Yeah, when I went to the FBI is when I switched to my top secret clearance. I worked for actually the Department of Defense for many years prior, Pentagon, USAID, State Department, and when I switched over to the intelligence community, that's when they went full new scope of for my clearance. I was going for my top secret with SCI. That's specialized compartmental information. So you get to go into the enclosed rooms where your phones can never ever grace the room, and talk secret stuff and all that. And my process took like almost like 9 months, and a lot of that was a lot of people that I originally put on my form. They, Florida, California, New York. So, these poor people had to go lots of different places. And next thing you know, I get a phone call. Why is the FBI asking you about this?
Yeah, yeah. All right, we'll switch gears here a little bit, and I noticed that you have now. You're probably old enough to remember the old Magnavox TV consoles that had a record player built into them, and it
Oh,
was a piece of furniture that was
yep.
in, that every, affluent, family would aspire to have in their living room.
Oh, yeah.
And now I'm seeing some of the top DJs like yourself building the Magnavox console that you stand behind, and it has turntables and a TV in front of it.
There
And you
is
just
some,
built one, and I must say, it really is a very nice fit and finish.
it's a
And
lot
how
lighter
long?
too.
And a lot lighter, and it's on wheels.
Actually, mine's not even on wheels. Mine's actually I made it modular enough so it's only 44 pounds for the bottom end, and it's
Hmm.
62 pounds inside a case on my top. So I can actually climb stairs and everything. So that was one of my requirements when I made it, because I still have a lot of venues with narrow staircases and
Hmm.
rough load-ins. Not all of them, but I wanted kind of a universal solution for myself for now, and that was the closest I could kind of get to that.
That's what I like about your thought process. You're very much like I am. Like, you think of all the different angles, and you thought you made yours what you call modular, which is the proper term. That if you can't bring the booth, you can slide out the components that you need to
Yep.
do ceremony, or do a reception with a traditional style booth. And then it's actually a redundant system, isn't it? I
Exactly,
mean,
and that's exactly, and that's part of a big part of when I worked at a number of agencies and actually businesses was backup and disaster recovery. I literally
mm,
wrote the book at the time for the disaster recovery for the FBI for their, it was the testing facility and the primary
mm-hmm,
network. And part of that is what happens when this happens? What happens when this happens? What happens?
mm-hmm.
Trying to think of all these contingencies. So when I started to really get serious with my business and everything, is like, okay, I want one of these. Nope, I'm going to need two, because if this fails, I want this to interchange as seamlessly as possible. How do you do
Mm-hmm.
it? Basically come up with my own thing, and then test it. It's not just like, oh, does it work in concept? Does it work practically? And if it
Yes.
doesn't, find what does work practically.
Yeah. I like that. I operate like that. I'm very redundant on things, to the point that it's spilled over into my everyday life. Like when I broke something, and my girlfriend Lori went, "Oh no," and I said, "Don't worry about it. I got it back up." And she just laughed, and she goes, "Of course you do." And so now I see that you have done something new that went up, premiered today, and you have the stacked toolbox for your accessories and so forth.
Yeah.
Tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about that.
So for a while, I've used Pelican cases for a long time, actually, and I've kind of gone through the
Hmm.
gamut. I had Tupperware tubs, I had bags, I,
Right.
I still actually have my cable file bags that I do use because it's really
Hmm.
nice to have the assortment for the cables. But I use the Pelican case as my kind of go all for my IEM, packs,
Hmm.
my lav packs, my lavaliers themselves, my over my ears, the
Hmm.
handhelds. And the Pelican case, while it was big enough, it was starting to kind of flap around when I was actually at a wedding or something. Things could fall out, and it did one time. And I always thought a stacked version with drawers would be better. And I was truly hoping this one, even though it measured, a certain size, I was hoping they had just enough gaps so I could use the two drawer mechanism for my microphones, because I could have used more space out of it. But it didn't work
Hmm.
out like that. But I think it's still ultimately, I can carry all my mics, carry all my cables, carry my RF Explorer so I can, check the frequencies to make sure everything's clean once I first scan. I have
Right.
everything at my disposal. And they even have, and I haven't bought it yet, but they actually have a dolly for it, so I could, wheel it around if I really want to. It's not that heavy. It's about 40 pounds totally loaded up, which really isn't too bad, especially everything that I'm carrying.
I really like the concept and where you're going with this, because I have 5 Pelican cases for the various bikes, the body packs, and other different pieces of gear, my wireless things, my DMX,
Mhm.
and I'm like, you know what? I've got all these Pelican cases, and now I have a case for the cases. And I'm like,
It's for
this
the
is
case.
insane to have a case for the cases, you know?
Oh
So
yeah.
it's just,
Indeed.
so I like where you're going with this, and I am going to be exploring that.
Yeah, I mean it's not a solution for everybody because even for me, I do wish it was say maybe just a little wider, or maybe just there's always a potential better solution, which is my downfall because I'm always like, okay, this is great. What's the next better thing? What am I missing?
Yes.
Is there something
Yeah.
that I can adapt? And it's good that it
Uh-huh.
keeps me fresh and keeps me thinking. It definitely doesn't help my wallet though.
No, I'm the same way. I have stuff, but on the upside, there's always someone willing to buy something from that's
Absolutely.
used as long as it's in good condition.
Absolutely.
But I do love the concept. So so Lou, what is on the horizon for you now? With this pandemic thing, are things
It,
opening up at all for you?
they're trickling here in New York. So, for
Hmm.
anybody that's in New York, we have this very infamous now 17-page of guidelines that people
Yes.
are supposed to follow. And, everything from dancing squares for specific people assigned to the table and, no mingling rules and all that.
Hmm.
And, you always wonder, how well everybody's going to adapt to it. I'm somewhat lucky enough, fortunate and unfortunate that my first gig is until May right now. I had a lot of reschedules again, a lot of couples that want the OG experience, the 2019 experience, and they're still pushing
Yes.
things out as far as they can to try to get that. But I'm hoping, especially like with this first gig, I've already started talking to the venue. We're already starting on the same page. It's about 60 days away, a little under that. And for me, it's about communication to make sure everything is going to go smooth, and then learning from this new experience because it's going to be different than the 2020 experience I had with the only four weddings that I had that year, and how well things going to play out this year. So I'm definitely hoping for the best. I always try to plan for the worst, and we'll
Hmm.
hopefully meet in the middle somewhere.
Oh, that sounds good. So now here is the time where you get to let us know how people can contact you, Paris Creative, your social media,
Yep.
and if you'd like to talk about Acuity, by
Sure,
all means.
absolutely. So you calling it by its old name? Its new name is Q now. It did go by
Oh, it's
Q
just
for a while.
Q. That's
I,
right. You
I,
did do a name change.
yeah,
I apologize.
oh no worries at all. I still sometimes call it Equity. So for those who don't know, it is hopefully the next generation of planning platforms. It's not just for DJs. It is actually for the entire event industry as a whole, but being initially planned for DJs since that's my wheelhouse. And the hope is actually hopefully in the next few weeks we'll actually have it out in beta for everybody to test. So I'm crossing my fingers that all that goes well. So people can reach me on the Q side, of course, Paris Creative. I have pariscreative.com. I'm always on Facebook Messenger. I'm always checking my email. Lots of people have friended me on Facebook in general as well. Never be afraid to friend me. And if
Hmm.
people ever want questions, a tech shoot, whatever, I'm always open to try to help people out.
Now, your YouTube channel, is that Paris Creative as well?
That is correct. So the YouTube channel itself is Paris Creative.
Yeah, I would, for any of you, new beginners out there or even intermediate, I would highly recommend that channel. Congratulations on your 2,000 views, by the way.
Thank you very much.
But there is a wealth of information from someone that deals in science and facts. I love laughing about that with you.
It's always fun. But yes, I do have a lot of content. Even some of my older content is still very relevant. I've done
Oh, sure.
everything from virtual DJs, Serato, managing music, copyright law,
Mm,
the latest build, the Rain One, that coming out, the Reloop Elite, all these wonderful pieces of things that I've tested. And I think one of the things that makes me hopefully a little more unique is everything that I test is something I've always intended to buy. These
mhm.
are here's where my experience is, here's my positive and negatives, and hopefully people will take that for what it's worth.
Lou, thank you so much for being on tonight. And I hope to see you at Expo
I
in
sure,
August.
I so hope that everything goes
Yeah, and
off
I
the
hope that
plans here.
works out for all of us. So thank you again for coming on, Lou.
Absolutely. Thank you for the invitation.
Alrighty. Good night, everyone.
Take care.
We'll see you next week.
Bye bye.